Once again, I'd like to welcome Carol Dover to beautiful sunny Galway in the west of Ireland. We are going to talk about validation today. So Carol, can you just give us a little bit of background on validation and why that's so important to the medtech industry?
Well, from a process validation, I think the key outcome of a good validation process is to ensure that you understand your process well from a characterisation point of view, and that leads to a consistent outcome in terms of the product that you're producing, and that it meets spec every time, every day.
Okay, perfect. And then in terms of validation, then it can be a tricky area. What are some of the common pitfalls that you see in terms of, say, good validations, or things that people need to look out for?
Well, I think that the focus really, should be on, protecting customer safety, product safety. Okay, so everything around the validation process should be geared towards that. It's not about how much paperwork you generate at the end of the day. It's about the quality of work that you undertake. And I think that some common problems, for example, are where there may be a tendency to almost cut and paste from other validations, for example, okay, or not have very well understood acceptance criteria as another good example. So really each validation project should be really treated in its own right. Risk management is key. Understanding the process is key. And I think once you really achieve those objectives, then you can deliver a protocol that's really going to test the process appropriately to be confident in the outcome.
Very good. And then I suppose when you go to launch a new product or try and improve a process, I'm sure this is going to resonate. It's where, do you verify fully or do you validate? How do you see validation as a way of speeding up a launch or a new product, or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that I mentioned process characterisation earlier. That's something that can begin early in the design control phase. So kind of getting ahead of the game in terms of understanding the production process as early as possible can really help. And then that's going to speed up the operational qualification and performance qualification phase as well. Okay, so that would be a key thing to do. Looking at it from a modular perspective as well, because often a product is made up in several stages of a production cycle. So maybe looking at ways to accelerate in that regard. A key thing is obviously to make sure that the final validation is carried out on the final design specifications, of course. But none of those activities that you do up front will really cause any risk in that area, as long as that final validation process is undertaken as well.
Perfect. And then the need for kind of revalidation, what's your thoughts on that? Because a lot of companies try and review validation requirements on an annual or biannual basis, but your thoughts on kind of revalidation and the need for it?
Well, I think any time that there's a change to a specification or a production process, then there's a need to evaluate the need for revalidation, for sure. And that often is a good opportunity to revalidate parts of the process based on what's changing and what you need to establish confidence around again. And then if there are no changes that are happening, I think a risk-based approach is a good way to evaluate the need for validation. You can look at the performance of the process from a yield perspective, for example, from a rework or a customer complaint point of view, to see what the indicators are there, to see if you need to prioritise the revalidation of that process sooner than might be originally planned. So a risk-based approach, looking at the performance of the process, the number of changes that have happened, can be a really good way to target the validation, the revalidation in an appropriate manner.
Perfect. Thank you, Carol, for sharing your wonderful expertise and experience on validation with us today.